Hi, my name is Mark, and today I'd like to tell you more about Black Rose Wars Rebirth, a game published by Ludus Magnus Studio, and thanks for sending it for review. You can already find the unboxing video of the base game with the Rotas box here on my channel. Today I will focus on the gameplay and I will tell you more about the solo mode. Black Rose Wars Rebirth is the second game in the Black Rose Wars series. You play as mages who will fight with each other, cast powerful spells, summon evocations, and rebuild the magic lodge in the game. I will also tell you how the game plays solo, because it's one of the new things in the Rebirth edition of this game, is the solo mode, where you can play against AI mage called the Avatar. So let me show you how the game plays, and then I will tell you my opinion on this game. So this is how Black Rose Wars looks like during the solo game in this case, but don't worry, the rules for the solo mode are not that different from the basic rules. I will start with explaining how the game plays in a multiplayer game, and then I will tell you how to play against Avatar, your AI opponent. You can already find video about the first Black Rose Wars on my YouTube channel. The basic gameplay is more or less the same. This new edition feels more streamlined, and there are some additional effects and cards and possibilities, but the basic gameplay is more or less the same. But I will try to explain it briefly for people who didn't play Black Rose Wars in the past. This is the main area, the main lodge, where you will move your mage and you will fight with different mages, because this is a game about combat. Your main goal is to fight with other mages, score trophies and score victory points. And the first person who crosses 30 victory points triggers the end of the game, and then you will calculate the remaining victory points and see who won the whole game. So your main goal is to fight with other mages, but also to rebuild the lodge, the Black Rose Lodge. You have different rooms, and those rooms, they are double layered, and they have places for cubes of your color. And during the game, different mages will place those cubes here. When the whole room is full of cubes, the room will be rebuilt, will be switched to the other side. The better side will allow you to perform more actions, but what's important, will score points for player who contributed to rebuilding this room. So differently to the first Black Rose Wars, in which you destroyed the lodge, here you will try to rebuild it and score points for building the rooms. So this is the main idea. Fight with other mages and rebuild all the, no, not all, but rooms in the lodge here. The whole game begins with Black Rose phase, but before I go to round summary, I have to show you your mage board. Differently to the first game, you have your mage cards that you slot inside a board color of your choice. And here is your mage. The mage has got basic stats like health, number of cards you can hold in your hand, your physical attack power, your movement range, how many rooms you can move if you choose your explore action, and how many uncompleted or completed but not solved quests you can have at the same time during the game. Here you have space for your physical action tokens, and here you have spaces for your spells. You have 4 slots, quick spell and slot number 1, 2 and 3. I will talk about it later. On the left side you have place for your grimoire, so all the spell cards from your mage. Here you will place your quests that are not finished. Here you can place finished quests, and here you have space for your discard spells. At the bottom you can place evocations, which are minions that you can summon during the game to help you fight with other mages. You have space for 3 evocations, for 3 minions that you can summon during the game. Your mage will start with some basic spells. Each mage has got personal spell. You start with one, you will acquire more of those spells during the game, and you start with some basic cards from your chosen school of magic. In each game of Black Rose Wars Rebirth, you will have 6 different schools of magic and one additional called Forgotten Spells, but those are special spells that you can acquire in a special way during the game. But you will have the 6, you can say, basic schools of magic. At the start of the game, you have to choose your school of magic and you have to choose your starting hand of cards. So you have you have 6 schools of magic. Each school of magic has got 2 different, you can say, type of mages. So in total you have 12 options to choose from, but each player has got to choose different school of magic. After you choose your school of magic, you will find those cards inside all those spells, and this will be your starting hand together with one of your personal spells. And you can start playing the game. The whole game begins with Black Rose phase. This is the phase where you will draw event cards from a special deck. This deck has got a black background here because those are the event cards dedicated to solo game, but of course in the box you have event cards dedicated for multiplayer game as well. Just when you play solo, you have to replace the multiplayer event cards with the solo event cards. So you take the top card from the event deck and you resolve it. Usually those are the events that are not necessarily good for your mages, but are good for the Black Rose. The Black Rose in this game is like an additional power that will also score points. Black Rose is not another player, you can say it's the game itself, and the Black Rose will also score victory points. And this is a cool fact about this game, that even though players compete with each other and will score victory points, the Black Rose itself will also score points during the game, and the game can end with the Black Rose winning the whole game and all players can lose with the Black Rose. So those are the event cards that usually are good for the Black Rose and bad for players. You take the top card, you read it, you place it in a dedicated spot on the small board. Here we have 3 spots. Some cards, event cards, activate in a specific turn of the round, and some of them are like instant cards. You just have to read it. Then, if any player doesn't have a quest card, you have to take a quest card from a special deck. And those are quests that you can finish during the game. They will give you additional powers that you can use once during the game, but they also give you additional victory points. Because most points in the game you will get from fighting and defeating other mages and from rebuilding the rooms in the lodge, but additional points you can also get from completing those quests. One thing to mention, in this game you fight with other mages, but you will never die permanently. If you are defeated, other players will score victory points and you will go back to your room, and then you can start your future rounds from this room and continue fighting the game. Just like in a multiplayer, I don't know, games like Quake, where you fight with other people and you never permanently die, you just respawn and you continue fighting. One thing to mention is that the whole game is divided into 3 moon phases. And this is very important because depending on the current moon phase, you have different deck of event cards and different deck of quest cards. So here we have the quest cards for the first moon phase, but okay, this one should go here. So if any player scores 6 victory points, it's shown on the right board here on the right side. If any player scores 6 victory points, you change moon phase to the second one. And then you will take all the quest cards from this board and all the event cards from the other board, and you will replace them with a new deck dedicated to the current moon phase. Then, if any player scores 18 victory points, Then you will replace the second deck with the third deck dedicated to the third moon phase. And then if anyone scores 30 victory points, it triggers end of the game. So this is cool because you have 3 moon phases, and in each moon phase you have different events and you have different quests that you can complete. So Black Rose phase, the first phase, you take 1 event. If anyone doesn't have any unfulfilled, uncompleted quest, you have to draw 1 quest, and then you go to study phase. And study phase is a very important phase. As I told you before, you have 6 schools of magic. Each school of magic has got a deck of shuffled spell cards and a card that shows you the symbols that sometimes are important for different spells, but basically a summary how the school of magic works. And during the study phase, you will take 2 cards from your grimoire, from your deck of cards. You can look at them, and then you will choose 4 cards in total from any school of magic. You can choose your starting school of magic, but you don't have to. You can choose any school of magic you want. In the base game there are 6 schools of magic. In the Rotas stretch goal box, the big expansion box, you have, if I'm not mistaken, 4 additional schools of magic. In each game of Black Rose Wars Rebirth you have to use 6 schools, but if you have the expansions you can choose different schools each time you play the game. So this is the cool part of the game, because even though, for example, I started as a Chaos Mage, I can now take Agony cards, or Hex cards, or Alchemy cards, or Nightmare cards. It's up to me what type of mage I will create during the game. So those are the 2 cards from my deck, and now I can take additional card. Let's say I will take 1 card from the Agony deck, 1 card from the Chaos deck, 1 card from the Nightmare deck, and 1 card from the, I don't know, Alchemy deck. And now I have 4 new spell cards in my hand, and I have to choose 2 of them that I will use during the rest of the game, like new spells that I have studied and learned. Those cards, they have different symbols, but what's important is that each spell card has got 2 sides. And this is cool because even though you have 6 schools of magic, and each school of magic has got this thick deck of different spell cards, each spell card has got 2 sides. Later during the game, when you will prepare for the action phase, you will be able to choose if you want to cast this side of the spell or this side of the spell, and they usually work differently. So each spell has got 2 different uses. Some of them are like combat spells that will just, I don't know, inflict damage to your opponent. Some of them are like trap spells or protection spells that can protect you from getting damage from other mages. Or you can set traps and trigger them during the game to deal damage to your opponents or do something really bad. Let's say that I will choose those 2 cards, I will discard those other 2, and now I have 4 cards. Maybe I had some other cards from our previous rounds. I will just have to check if I don't have more than my hand limit. My hand limit in this case is 8, so I can keep all those cards in my hand. And this is the end of the study phase. Each player takes 2 cards from the deck, 4 new cards from the schools of magic. From those 4 new cards you have to choose 2 and discard 2, and then you have your hand of cards. And the next phase is the preparation phase. In the preparation phase, you have to, you can say, program your spells on your player board. As I said before, you have 4 different slots. And in this phase, this preparation phase, you have to think what you want to achieve in the next, in this current round, and what your opponents may do, because it's very important in which order you will place your spells on your board, because then you will trigger those spells in the order you place them. So for example, I have the Peak of Agony card. I will put it here. This is different because this is the quick spell card, and this card here can be triggered at any time during your action phase. It doesn't have to be used in any order. but the remaining slots, they have number 1, 2, 3, and I have to use them in order. So I could, for example, use this card here. I could use this card here, and let's say I will use this card here. And those are my cards. Others, this one card that I didn't use, I will keep in my hand. And those cards are secretly programmed and placed on my board, so other players don't see it. And as I said earlier, this is the important moment where you have to choose the side of your spell card, because depending how you place the card on your board, this is what side of the spell you will trigger. You cannot, for example, in your action turn, reveal this card and now say, maybe this side, maybe this side. No, during preparation phase, you have to choose the side of your spell, and this is how the spell will be cast. After all players are prepared, you will go to the action phase. In the action phase, in the player order, you will have an action phase, and you can do 2 different actions in your phase. You can cast one of the 3 spells in the order that you place them. So the first spell needs to be cast this one, then the second card, and then the third one. So you can cast one spell. Let's say I will cast this spell, and it says place 1 instability cube, so 1 cube in the room, then place a Vastum. Vastum is a special token used for the Chaos School of Magic, don't worry about it. And then I can convert 1 instability cube and I can place a Vastum. So this is, let's say, my first spell. I will do what it says on the board, and I can do another action. The second action cannot be casting the second main spell. For the second action, I can cast my quick spell, or I can perform a physical action. To perform a physical action, you have to flip one of those 2 tokens. So you can see that you can only do 2 physical actions each round of the game. And now you can choose. You can explore. Exploring means moving on the board to the distance of your mage card. And then you can activate a room. Each room has got a special action that you can activate. So for a physical action, you can move and activate a room. You can punch your opponent and activate the room you are in. You can either punch the opponent mage, or you can punch evocation, the minion that was summoned by your opponent. Or as a third physical action, it's or, you have to choose one, explore, fight, or you can command, and command means activating one of your evocations. If you have summoned an evocation earlier in the game, you will get evocation card. You have to place it in one of the 3 slots on your board, and each evocation card has got a special skill, movement value, fight value, and health points. So you can just use your evocation to move somewhere around the board and punch other mages. So you can, as I said, explore, fight, or command one of your evocation to do something. Another thing you can do is, it's called momentum, and you can choose one of the spells on your board that wasn't already played. You can discard it and you can move by 1 hex. You can move to another hex. This is important because if you get defeated and you end in your mage room, you have to move out of this room to do anything in the game. So you can either use a physical action to move somewhere, or if all your physical tokens are flipped face down, you can discard one of your cards to move 1 space and then do something. Important thing to remember is that you can, in your action phase, you can cast one of the spells in order, and as a second action you can cast a spell, or you can do a physical action. And then all players do the same. Let's say in my second action I will trigger this spell and I will use this spell, and then in my third action I will use this spell and I will use my second physical action to do something, move around the board, place the instability cubes, maybe fight with other evocations or fight with other mages. When you fight mages, depending how much damage you dealt, you will place your cubes on the top of the opponent mage board. When the number of damage cubes reaches the number of health of the given mage, the mage is destroyed. It will go to his or her room. All the evocations minions that were summoned by this mage will be discarded. And the players who placed their cubes on the defeated mage board will get some victory points. But let's say this is the end of the action phase. I played all my actions, I played all my physical actions. That's the end. When all players played all the actions, you go to evocation phase, and now all the evocations remaining on the board can act. As I said, each evocations, you have this thick deck of different evocations that you can summon in the game. They all have some abilities, some health points, damage action, I mean combat action, and movement points, fight points, life points. So now all the evocations can move in player order as well. And after evocation phase is a cleanup phase where you will remove all played spells and put them in your discard piles. You will ready your physical tokens, and then you can go to the Black Rose phase again, and then you will take an event, take a quest if you don't have any, you will study and you will learn new spells. Then you will prepare those spells on your board, and then you will do action phase, and this game lasts as long as someone scores 30 victory points. At the end of the round, when you have crossed 30 victory points, players will score another points for completed quest, and they will score points for trophies, because when you defeat another mage, you will get the trophy of this mage, and the player with most trophies will score some additional points. But basically in this game you will score most points during the game for fighting with other mages, for completing quests, and for rebuilding, repairing all those rooms. One thing to mention, when you repair a room, let's say this is the basic room, it has an ability. Every player can trigger this ability as many times as you want during each round of the game. But if all players place the cubes here, at the end of the round, this room will be rebuilt. It will be placed to the other side, the nice side, and you will place those ability token here. And usually the ability of a repaired room is more powerful than the basic action of this room. But the difference is that when a room is repaired, when someone in a round activates a room, you will flip this token, and it can be activated only once per round. All those tokens will unflip during cleanup phase of each round, but a rebuilt room can only be activated once per round. So this is the multiplayer version of this game. And as I said, in Black Rose Wars Rebirth, you can play solo. So this is a brand new feature. You will play against avatars. This is one of the avatars from the Rotas expansion box. In the Rotas stretch goal expansion box, but to be honest, it contains 6 small expansions. You will get plenty of opponents that you can choose for your solo game. So this is an avatar. Avatars, or an avatar and AI opponent, can be used either in a solo mode, so you can play your mage versus the avatar, or you can use avatar as an additional mage in the multiplayer game. For example, you play a 2-player game and you think that you would like to have more mages and more combat and action on the board. You can add avatar to your 2-player game and you will basically play a 3-player game. So this is cool because you can use avatar in a solo game, or you can add avatar in a multiplayer game to have more players on the board. Together with avatar, you get this avatar board. Avatar doesn't use the basic board, it uses a special board where you track the life points of the avatar. You have an avatar card. Remember, this is not the basic one, this is from one of the expansions. Each avatar card has got some life points, attack value, movement value, and some special ability and some priorities. And those priorities will tell you which mage or which room will this avatar target with the spells it will cast in the action phase. This is the grimoire of the avatar, so the avatar doesn't use the standard combat and the standard spells that you learn and you acquire during the game. Avatar has got a separate deck of spell cards. And how the avatar works. In the Black Rose phase, avatar doesn't do much. You will play the same as in multiplayer game, you will reveal the event, do what it says. Avatar doesn't get any quest. Then in the study phase, avatar doesn't learn any new spells from the schools of magic. In the preparation phase, avatar doesn't plan anything on the board because avatar has got a separate board. And in the action phase, if you play solo, you are the first player all the time. You will perform your 2 actions and then you will play the first action of avatar. And this is very easy because what avatar does in the turn is, in the action phase, it reveals the top card from the action deck. This card, for example, tells you that priority number 3 is important. Priority number 3 tells you which room the avatar wants to target. First the room with most instability cubes, then a room with most mages, and then the room, if there is a tie, room with most models, miniatures in total in a room. And avatar will place 2 instability cubes in this room. Then you perform the second thing, this is a physical action. The avatar moves towards a yellow room and places 1 instability token there. And that's it. This is the whole avatar action that it did. Cast the spell and do this physical action. Then you will go to your turn, you will place your action, and then you will take another card from the avatar. Here it moves towards the target. You will check priority number 2 from the avatar card. So here, for example, priority number 2 is the mage with least health points remaining. If you play solo, this is quite easy because you're the only opponent mage of the avatar, so it will always target you. So you move towards the target and then you cast the spell. Assign a random jinx to the target, then convert 1 damage for each jinx assigned to the target, and it performs the special action from the avatar card. That's basically it. If you decided to play the normal difficulty of the game, each round the avatar will play 1 spell card and that's it. In the more difficult variant, avatar will always play 4 spells each round. But that's it. You can focus on your game, you can focus on your action. When it's avatar turn, you reveal the top spell card and do what it says. All the icons and the behavior of avatar is very similar to the behavior of your mage, so you don't have to learn a lot of new things, you just have to read the avatar spell cards and do what it says. What's also cool is that just like with the events and just like with the quests, the avatar has got 3 different decks of spells. And depending on the moon phase you are in, you will use the dedicated grimoire of the avatar. So, this is the first moon phase, you can see this moon here, but if anyone gets to 6 victory points, you will replace the avatar spell deck with the second deck. And here you have different spell cards. If someone crosses 18 victory points, you will replace the avatar deck with the third avatar deck of spell cards. So this is really cool because the avatar doesn't always play the same 10 cards over and over again, but each moon phase of the game, the avatar gets a new deck of action cards. Another cool thing is that each avatar has got a different avatar cards. The possessed is the avatar from the base game, but you don't only get a new avatar card with stats, different priorities and different abilities. With each avatar you will get a new grimoire of spell cards. So this is really cool because in the base game you have only 1 avatar. In the Rotas box I think there are 7 additional. So in total, if you have the Kickstarter edition of the game or if you decide to get Black Rose Wars Rebirth with the Rotas stretch goal box, you will have 8 different mages that you can fight with, and each of them has got a different deck of spell cards. And that's why fighting with each avatar feels completely different, because they have different priorities, they use different spells, and they basically do different things on the board, but they also summon evocations, they will repair rooms, they will attack you. So this is really, really cool. And that's it. Then there's evocation phase. You will move your evocations, avatar will move her evocations, then there is cleanup phase, and you continue playing the game. All the cubes avatar places on the board are taken from the black rows, and all the points avatar scores are added to the black rows final score. So to win the game, you have to score more points than avatar together with the black rows. And this is basically how you play this game. Let's wrap it up. So you know how to play Black Rose Wars Rebirth. I have to say straight away that this is a really fun, interesting, cool and enjoyable game. I played the first Black Rose Wars more multiplayer than solo, because the original Black Rose Wars didn't have the solo variant. It had a solo variant in the Sator stretch goals box. But the solo mode for the first Black Rose Wars was very different from the normal game. It was more like a puzzle, because from what I remember, you were fighting with evocations. This one here, Rebirth, has got a full, very cool and interesting solo mode with the AI mage. Really, really cool. But let me tell you about pros and cons of this game. Pros, the rules are very simple. If you had to explain someone the game, it's very simple. You have the event phase, you take one event, then you have the learning phase where you learn new spells, preparation phase where you prepare the spells you want to cast in the round, and then the action phase. And during the action you can either move or punch someone or cast one of the spells that you have prepared on the board. So the rules are quite simple, but the game is very deep and very advanced, mostly thanks to all the schools of magic, all the different spell cards, evocations, jinx cards, improvements and quests and everything. But all of it is very intuitive and easy to learn and to remember. So this is really, really cool that the rules itself are not that complex, but everything around the game and the gameplay itself is quite deep and advanced. As I said, 6 schools of magic if you have the base game, 10 if I'm not mistaken if you have the Rotas box. Even with the base game you have 6 schools of magic, many different spells. All the spells are double-sided, so you can use the top spell of the card or the bottom spell. A lot of replayability, and this is really cool. Thanks to the schools of magic, you can create a very unique mage each time you play the game, because even though you start with some cards predefined by the school of magic of your choice, depending on the spells that you will acquire during the game, you can create different mage each time you play the game. I like the programming mechanic that you have to prepare for the action phase, and you have to kind of predict the strategy and predict the movement of your opponent, because the order of the spell cards that you place on your player board matters. And this is really fun if you, after the action phase starts, and it's always surprising and intense and then fun if you manage to pull all your plans that you had or not. I like that you have 3 moon phases in the game, and in each moon phase you have different events, different quests, and if you play solo you have different cards for the avatar. It's fun because you don't always, reshuffle the same quests and events, but the further you're in the game, the more, I would say, advanced or more profitable and more deadly events and quests you can acquire. The combat is fun, the combat is tense. It's a little unpredictable because you have to program all the spells in advance, and then with 3-4 players there's a lot of chaos on the board. Maybe it's not that predictable, but it's really, really fun with evocations, the minions that you can summon, and the mages and all the spells. It's a really fun, intense game. I like the modular board here, because each time you play the game the board will look different. There are even more tiles in the Rotas stretch goal box that you can also get on Ludus Magnus website. So a lot of replayability, because each time the lodge will look different. You can help, you can summon evocations to help you, and you have this thick deck of evocations, and again, a lot of evocation in the base game, even more evocations in all the expansions. So you don't only have your own mage, but you also have all the minions that you can use to, you know, defeat other mages. And the solo mode here is really, really well designed. I have recently played The Bridge from Ludus Magnus, a little similar game, but set in the future about hacking and you know, robots and AI. But there the solo mode was more complex and more involving and took much more time. Here it's really, really simple. When it's avatar action phase, you flip the top spell card of the avatar, you perform the steps written on the card, and that's it. It doesn't take a lot of time, it's not complex to learn, you don't have to remember a lot of things, you just have to flip the card and do exactly what it says. Very easy to follow and very fun to play. And again, in the base game you have only one avatar, it's fun, but it's one. But if you get the Rotas expansion box, you will get 7 additional avatars, and so the replayability will be off the roof. I'm sorry that I'm talking all the time about the Rotas expansion box, but for me, the base game and the Rotas is kind of integral part. They are integral and they should be played together. The base game is okay. If you play multiplayer, you will find plenty of fun inside. But especially if you want to play solo, with all the additional content in the Rotas expansion box, it's really worth getting. The things I don't like, or maybe like less about this game, is that for me it lacks some kind of story. Basically, when you get the game and open the rulebook, you have no idea who Black Rose is, what are you doing in this game, why are you fighting with each other, who are the mages. I would like to see more story and more introduction, maybe some story on some cards. I don't know. I know it's not a storytelling game, but seeing more story, especially that this game, if I'm not mistaken, is set in the Nova Aetas universe created by Ludus Magnus, and there are other games they are set in the same universe, kind of. So the whole universe is rich in story, and I would like to see more story here. I would also like to see more artwork, because if you look at all the spell cards, all the cards from each school, they have the same artwork on them. So I would like to see more variety in artwork, and I would like to see more, you know, cool fantasy art on all those cards. The game sometimes can get a little long, considering that this is a, you know, fast-paced action game where you cast spells and fight with other mages. Because of all the preparation phase and the study phase where you learn new spells, it takes a lot of time. It's not a short game solo, and from what I remember, playing multiplayer, the first Black Rose Wars was not a short game. And then another thing is that depending on the player count, you can have different, you know, feeling about the game. If you play a 2-player game of Black Rose Wars, it feels more like a tactic game, strategic game, or like a chess, you against your opponent. There are more things that you can predict and more things that you can plan. If you play a 4 or 5-player game, it's pure chaos. The board changes a lot. When the turn goes back to you, so many things can change on the board that some spells that you have planned to cast may be useless at the point. So depending what you expect, if you want a pure chaos, you need more players. If you want a more strategic game, play just with 2 players or play solo. It will be more strategic game. And I have to say that even though you have a lot of mages, 4 in the base game and more in the stretch goal box, they are not that different from each other. Okay, each mage has got a unique personal spell and maybe some different stats, but that's basically it. Of course, with all the schools of magic, you can create your own mage during the game, but I would like to see more variety in the mages itself. For example, maybe each mage should have a starting school of magic with even more varied or different spells, and then the additional spells you will get during the game from the deck of spell cards. I don't know. But the mages, even though there are a lot of them, they don't feel that different from each other. To wrap it up, this is a really fun, interesting, cool and deep and easy with rules at the same time. Cooperative, competitive combat game. If you like games like, I don't know, Quake or Unreal Tournament on, if you play those games on your, PC, back in the days, it's like similar vibe here, because you fight with those mages, you fight with evocations, then you get defeated, you respawn in your room, then you go back to combat. So it's a fun game. It's mean, it's competitive, so you have to like those games. But if you like those type of games, it's really cool. Is it worth getting only for solo? I would say definitely yes, but you need the base game together with Rota's stretch goal box, because with just the base game you'll only get one avatar, which is fun to play, but I don't think it will give you that much replayability over time. But if you get the Rota's expansion, you will get additional 7 avatars, each of them with different card, with different deck of spells. You will get legendary scenarios, the additional mages, more schools of magic. So this game with Rotas is, very fun, replayable, no matter if you play solo or if you play a multiplayer. Really cool game. I'm really interested and curious how the re-edition of the first Black Rose Wars will look like, because I know that Ludus Magnus, they plan to make another crowdfunding campaign for the first Black Rose Wars with maybe some improvements and additional content. I'm curious if they want to add the avatar solo mode to the first Black Rose Wars as well or not, I don't know. But this one is really cool, and if I had to choose one at this point now, I would choose definitely Rebirth, because it's more interesting and more fun, especially for solo gamers. Thanks for watching the video. Click the like button if you like this video. You can subscribe to my channel, visit me on social media. All the links are in the description of the video. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.